Good morning, and welcome to those of you that are just joining today, and welcome back to those of you that have been here for the past 2 days. I am Robin Bear with KC SourceLink. Hearing from other business owners that have been through or are going through the same ups and downs as you are can be really refreshing and rejuvenating. I hope you enjoy these business owners and feel free to check out the Entrepreneur in Action section on our website for more stories about our entrepreneurs in Kansas City. Now I'm going to turn it over to Xander Wilker, and he is going to help moderate a day in the life of a food business.
All right, thank you so much, Robin. Thank you, everyone out there listening to us today. I'm really excited about the discussion that we've got planned for the day. So I am the director of the Ennovation Center Business Incubator. I work with a lot of food businesses, and something that doesn't necessarily get covered a lot is, the personal aspect of running a food business. So we have a fantastic panel of business owners from different industries, different types of food business. We've got August, who runs a food truck. We've got Victor, who has My Village Grill restaurant. We've got Laura with a food product, Fatty Head. And we've got Brandon, who manages the brand and the franchise, Jefferson's franchise. So thank you all to our panelists for joining us today and really opening up and sharing about what it's really like, the day in a life of a food business, what it's really like, the behind the scenes. We're pulling back the curtain to really open up and share, what it's like. So for those of you that are running a business right now, just having, some of that behind the scenes and information and being able to share. And for those of you who are thinking about getting into a food business, understanding, of course, the business plan and all the important aspects there, but understanding what it really means, for your life, for your lifestyle, what it's, personally like running a food business. So let's just go ahead and jump into this. Laura, you're going to be the first one that I'm going to ask this question to. Can you just tell us what is a quote typical day for you running Fatty Head, managing a food product business?
I think that there is no typical day. That's the best thing I can say, because things change. There's new challenges. So the word pivot has been spoken quite a lot during these times. So I have a food product that's in about 75 grocery stores, and I was using a distributor to get it there. And I decided to take on distribution myself. So my typical day now, as within the last 3 weeks, I get up and I look through all my contacts, and I'm collecting store names, manager names, phone numbers, emails, and I'm contacting them directly, submitting the proper paperwork to be a vendor, and then checking on stock. And then by the time I've done that, it's like mid-afternoon, and I run over to the Ennovation Center and grab my product, and I drive it to the stores and I stock it, and then I take a picture of it. I'm very big into social media to promote all the people that work with me. So it's just a lot of running around, constant running around, and coffee.
Wait a second, Laura. So something that really stuck out to me was that you hardly even mentioned, hey, I'm making my product. So something that you have this idea of, I'm a food product manufacturer, I'm here, you just imagine, hey, all day I'm here, I'm mixing up product, but really a lot of your day is not that, correct?
No, because I only have one product. There's a lot of people who I'm affiliated with who are bakers, and they make lots of different things. I have one product, and it's in high demand because it's really probably the only legitimate keto pizza crust out there that doesn't have cauliflower in it. So it's in high demand and people love it. It's a really expensive product because it's made with almond flour, which is like gold. So that's the trick, is to figure out how I can get the price down. But so I come in with maybe 1 or 2 people in a day or two, and we just make a ton of product. And then I'm not back in the kitchen for, depending on demand, another 3 or 4 days. So right now I'm delivering my last box today. So I'm completely out of stock. So I'm scrambling to get people to come help me, because I think next week there's going to be a bunch of people going, I need a case. And so it's like Olathe, Parkville, Grandview. until I get a route, it's just real crazy right now. But
Thank you so much for sharing all those other components about your day and about connecting with people and how important that is. You don't think about that, and then just logistics
oh, that's good.
is a huge component that a lot of people don't think about. So I'm gonna, later on in the conversation, I'm gonna come back to partnerships. But Victor, I'm coming to you. So Victor has My Village Grill in Independence, Missouri. Can you tell us about your, again, I'm gonna put in quotes, typical day running a restaurant, owning a restaurant?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Victor, and as introduced. For me, it's crazy because I'm waking up in the morning and trying to take care of the body aches and pains from the previous night. Walking up to 13,000 steps around the restaurant, trying to make sure everything is going accordingly takes a whole lot out of me every day, especially for a new business, just about 2.5 years old. I have to be at every desk. I have to say hello to every customer. I have to tell them exactly what we're serving them because they are all adventurous eaters. They want to find out what is in this food. It's so delicious. What did you put in it? And they want to talk to the chef every day, every minute. So it takes a lot to get started. We have to do restocking, make sure we get the right condiments, which is hard to find. We have to make phone calls all over the country. Who has this? Who has that? Make sure we have it in place. It's not like just walking into a regular store and getting all your supplies. No, you have to go deep to get fresh supplies of what you use. And money. How much money did we make yesterday? How much are we going to spend today? Who's going to help us today? Where are we going to find the right person to help? You know, starting out, it was like, okay, let's try who is going to help, hire this, hire that. And to find the right fit is always a headache. So every day you wake up and you're thinking, okay, who are we going to get to solve this problem? Who's going to deal with this issue? And it all falls back on me. So it's crazy getting started. We have to do email checks. Everybody's asking questions. Sanda's checking on me, sending me emails, making sure I'm doing good. So it's a whole bunch of things. Typical day, and it's unending because we're creating new customers. We are creating new communication tools to tell people what it is that they are eating. It's not just your regular, already known cuisines that we have all around. For my restaurant, it's something completely new. And everybody's excited to say, hey, so this is what happens in your restaurant. Okay. Yeah, so it's very hectic. So but we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there.
And so this is an interesting parallel to what Laura was saying, that again, there wasn't a lot of talk about, hey, I'm making the food. Yes, that is happening, but when you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's my typical day? You're waking up, what are the things that I need to do? It came back to connections to people. You're making calls, you're trying to find people to help with different problems, and logistics too. Interestingly enough, for your restaurant, finding the things that you need to operate. So even though it's very different, there are those like overarching kind of parallels on really what you're, and I like to that you were mentioning problem solving. Like that is, it's common across all businesses, especially now, especially in food. Every day is and it already was before COVID. It was like, you'll have new problems that you need to solve. So you need to be prepared for that. So it's not, okay, typical day, here's the things. It's, all right, let's get emotionally prepared because somebody will come with something. Something will happen, and I need to be able to figure out and problem solve. So thank you, Victor, for sharing that. That was fantastic. All right, I'm hopping over. Brandon, I'm going to ask you now. You're different that you manage a restaurant franchise. So you currently got 30 locations, 6 states. What is a typical day for you? I forgot to put the quotes on there. Typical day for you.
Yeah, same or echo what others have said, and there's not a lot of typical 2 days, but that's something I love about the business in general. But my day is a little different than an owner operator. We do own restaurants as well. We own 3 of the locations that we're franchisee, as well as the franchisor and president and owner of Jefferson's Franchise Systems. And we have, as you noted, locations in 6 states, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. And our staff here in the office has been working remote, some in office for various needs. We have a corporate staff of 9, and we also have operational staff of probably 200 to 250. So we have really good key managers and leaders in our operations staff that handle all of the daily ups and downs of the actual restaurants that we own. I touch base and check in with them at least once a week. We talk far more frequently than that, but we meet once a week. And then on the corporate side of things, it's early in the morning until late at night, usually, like everybody else on this call.
So you're getting the, nighttime calls about some, one of those problems that comes up, and just managing. And this is something that we, some of our businesses as they're growing, that they're building. And Victor had mentioned this, Laura had also mentioned this, but building that team. Brandon, you're to a point now that you've got that team in place that can help you as those, so you've got a team of problem solvers that you're managing while you're also, managing the overarching problems. I just real briefly, tell me a little bit about constructing that team. Because as you said, you're like, hey, yeah, we got problems, but I got some awesome people and they can help me take care of those. But ahead of that, part of your process was finding and building that team. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that process and kind of your thought behind it?
Yes, we're really fortunate I'm very fortunate to have a great staff of young managers and leaders on the operational side that I trust very much and that work very hard. And it's the byproduct of investing into them and growing them over time. And, to your point about how did that come to pass, I mean, 15 years of building and working at developing people and putting them in a place to succeed and trusting them and showing them that we trust them and allowing them to make decisions. So we're fortunate that I don't have to deal with sometimes some of the challenges that a typical owner would handle. I wouldn't be able to, quite frankly. I'm not qualified to do anything in the restaurants anymore other than say hi to guests. This would be a burden to our kitchen staff or front of house staff and any of our concepts, quite frankly. So we're quite fortunate to have a lot of good people that work really hard for us that we try our best to take very good care of in return.
So, and kind of pulling out the themes here, a lot, you think, okay, this is a food business. This is about making good food, right? And really the conversation already is, it's about people. It's about, we've all mentioned customers and interacting with customers. That's fantastic. That is that is something that we see with a lot of our successful food businesses is when you start talking about the business, you bring up customers. You spend a lot of time talking about your customers, and then too those partnerships as well, whether it's your employees or other businesses that you're working with. But a lot of it is just interacting with people. That is core to a food business. So Brandon, thank you so much for sharing that perspective. All right, August. August manages and owns Ciao Bella food truck. So can you, I won't forget the quotes, tell us about the typical day of owning and running a food truck?
Good morning, all. I'm August, owner and operator, Ciao Bella Ice Creamery and Bakery Food Truck. We got into the food truck business about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. My wife and I, between the two of us, had 77 years in education. So we had no experience in the food industry. The amount of time that we're in the food truck with the service window open, interacting with customers is a very small portion of our typical day. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we've got to put in time with all of those platforms, along with our website, making sure our calendar and our scheduling, that there's nothing overlapping, that we haven't booked two events too close to each other. The fact that we make made from scratch ice cream. I make all of the ice cream. Susie makes all of the cookies. Everything's made from scratch. And so when we go somewhere, we have a finite supply of everything. So we've got to make sure that what we're bringing to an event is going to be enough. But another part of the day is making sure that the truck is cleaned and stocked and all gassed up. The actual time of making the product, going out and buying all of the ingredients. You've got to factor in the amount of time driving to an event, setting up, closing it back down, driving back from the event. So all of that goes into what our typical day is, but with the service window open is the smallest portion of any day for us.
It is interesting, and I get it. Food business commercials give us this romanticized idea because that's the attractive part. You're there and you're like churning ice cream, or you're like flambeing something.
Absolutely.
It was a commercial if it was realistic, and it's like, here I am, doing paperwork and making calls, but that's a lot of it. So it's important for folks to
Right.
See that, understand that side of it also. So August, thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna throw the next question back to you, August, because we're kind of already on the topic. You talked about sorry, there you blipped just a little bit. But I want to ask you, you were talking about your product. I want to know why you love your product.
I am an ice cream-aholic, and so over the years before, when we were thinking about food truck, when we were preparing for the food truck, we asked our kids, we asked a lot of our friends, what are some ideas for food trucks that you would, and worried about the internet connection here. But we chose that because we love it and we enjoy actually making the product. And so that's why we chose ice cream and cookies. It was something to do, and it's something we thought Kansas City metro area that there wasn't really the folks out there providing that made from scratch type of product.
Awesome. So I love that it comes back to, you know, a need in the marketplace on the business side, but also having that passion about it. It can't just be, you know, oh, there's a need for this, you know, but I mean, if you're really going to be successful as a food business, having that care and love yourself for it. I'm gonna go back around the other direction. Brandon, could you share just what you love about, in this case, you know, the product? Some of it is the brand. Some of it is the food. Can you share a little bit about what you love about your business?
Well, I mean, we talked about it in the first segment, or my first portion, I guess, but people is really what I love the most about this business and business in general. We've owned other businesses and been involved in some other stuff, and people development is highly enjoyable for me, and watching people grow and do things that they may not have thought that they could accomplish. We do skew to a younger employee, so we get to watch that rapid development sometimes. But with the corporate staff, it's the same thing. I mean, I just really enjoy the teamwork and the people involved with what we do every day. We do love our product. I own a couple of different concepts just historically before we were able to acquire the brand a couple of years ago. But we certainly, I certainly love our product. I have to moderate that because I do love it a lot. I can't eat it every single day, but um, we're very fortunate to have a product that we believe in and stand by, and it's a really fun environment as far as the restaurant concept and brand itself. So all of that ties together for an enjoyable living and enjoyable work for me, but people is definitely what drives me probably the most.
And I think that's such an important thing to from the get-go, because you said, Brandon, early on, you're like, these are things I don't do. This is not where my skill set is. This is what I'm really good at, but also this is what I really enjoy. I want to be able to manage this team. I want to be front of the house. And also, if you guys can feed me, that's awesome, great. So I love this food. But I'm going to leave the making of this to you. But kind of understanding where you see yourself, not only with your skill set, but also what you really enjoy. That when you got those tough days, you're like, but you know, yes, this is tough, but I really do enjoy this. And at the end of the day, I'm exhausted, I'm coming home, but I'm like, I mean, we did good things, you know, that particular employee had a really accomplished day, and that was, you know, awesome to see. So Brandon, thank you so much for sharing that. Victor, tell me about what you love about your product and your food and your restaurant.
Yes, thank you for that question, because I've been thinking about it all night. I'm like, what do I really love about my food? First, I think it's the freshness, the fact that everything we make at the restaurant is made custom made for that customer. You know, we make our food to the level of spiciness. Everybody loves the flavor. That's one very important thing. Secondly, it's very fulfilling to see people walk into the restaurant and ask, "What do you guys serve here?" What, because most people are very curious about what do we eat in Africa. I'm very happy to pass that education to them. That, hey, what we eat in Africa is almost the same thing in your big stores here. It's the chemistry of putting it together. Because food to me is like chemistry. You go to the kitchen, which is my laboratory, and I put stuff together. And everybody comes out and says, "How did you do that? What did you use?" And I'm like, okay, we use exactly the same things that you find in your regular grocery store. It's just how we put it together that makes the difference. So they're always amazed that when they eat the rice, they're like, "What kind of food is this? What did you do with it?" that helps me promote that. Uh, that's what I would call a precision of what people eat wherever they go. Because every tourist, every traveler everywhere, when you get to your city, the first thing you're going to ask is, what do they eat here? You want to eat something different. So that fulfillment brings joy to my heart. Representing my community and telling them that, hey, doing this to make people have a better understanding where we come from, what we eat, and how we do eat this food. So it's good to share that with people, and just makes me want to do it over and over again. It just keeps me going. And of course, my family is the family of chefs. My great grandma, my, my grandma, my mom, they all cooks. So it just brings me joy that I'm able to do that, continue doing it for the family, and sharing all I can for my community.
I definitely appreciate the like because you're saying the chemistry, the like science component, and then the creation. That's one part of it, but then really the deliverable and the thing that you're getting out of it is then sharing it. It's but it's not nearly as much fun. You're like, I do this. This is fine. This is good. I can enjoy this food. But that educational component, I am a geek for that. Like, I would love it. I love it when the chef or the owner comes out and they're like telling you about, okay, this is why we did this, and this is that's always very entertaining for me, and I always appreciate that. And you also know then that the chef, that the creator there that you are, is really putting in that special ingredient, love, and into that. So Victor, thank you so much for sharing that. And Victor, I think when you're on, there's a little bit of feedback. There's something behind you, but I'm going to hop over to Laura. Tell me what you love about your product.
I have no background in cooking or baking. I was a television producer for 27 years. And before that, I waited tables through college. So that's my experience with the food business. But I have had a lifelong struggle with weight and food addiction. It's been my go-to since my first memory of indulging in, whatever felt good to eat. It is a carbohydrate addiction. And so as I was trying to get healthy throughout the years, I discovered ketogenic eating, and I'm not perfect at it by any means, but it's the only time in my life where I felt like I've had an amount of control or a lack of obsession about food. When you're an addict of any kind, your mind is constantly spinning on when can you get your next hit. For me, French fries, potato chips, anything. It's like, that's my method. And I started to realize at work when I was stressed out, I'm like, is McDonald's open yet? Is it 10:30? Can I go get a quarter pounder? So my business revolves around trying to save my sanity in my life, actually, because discovering ketogenic eating prohibited some things. And so I would start looking around for stuff I wanted. Pizza. Oh my gosh, pizza's great. So I found this fatty head ingredient kind of pizza deal and started talking to friends about it, and they were eating it. Like, you mean there's no wheat in there? That's amazing. That tastes fantastic. And so they're like, you ought to do something with this. And I'm like, what am I going to do with it? It's like, give you a piece of it. And that's just how it kept going and going. And I finally got a license and started selling and would meet people at Quick Trips. So what I love is to hear people talk about it the way I just did, that, oh my God, I can have pizza again. And this is a game changer for me to try to stay low carb. And the creativity that I see from people, from my little pizza crust that I make, and then they come up with like a stromboli or they've made a pretzel with it, or they've made a pizza pocket, and they share it on social media, like, look what I made, look what I made. That is just so cool, because it's just like, wow, I'm like just one piece of the puzzle that allows people to have a more rounded, enjoying diet that they have decided to adopt for themselves for health reasons. So it's fascinating that it's just one little component, and it helps people do all kinds of things.
And I thank you for sharing that. I mean, it was such a personal journey getting into this business. And like Victor would say, it's almost like destiny for Victor. And August talking about, just the planning towards the business. And then Brandon too, just sharing, kind of the story of, yeah, we were in business and we really, gravitated towards this. And it was all these different, very different paths that took people to owning their food business. And it is such a personal journey for folks. Like, you see the product on the shelf, you see the restaurant, you see the food truck, and you don't really think about, man, that journey, all stories behind why that place is here. So thank you so much for sharing that. Brandon, I'm going to throw this question to you. I know you've been in business for a while, so I'm going to ask you to kind of go back in time. I want to know, what was an expectation that you had about owning a franchise that was just way wrong? That you look back now and you're like, I thought it'd be like this, but that was not the case. Is there any particular expectation that you had, or on the flip side, was there an expectation that you had and they were like, that was spot on, I thought it'd be this way, and it was spot on? But yeah, anything that really kind of maybe threw you off?
The first food business or restaurant oriented business that we got involved in was Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. It's headquartered in the Kansas City area and started in this area, and that was what attracted, or one of the things that attracted us to it. That was 14 years ago, after I had sold a different business. I think my expectation for income was misguided and significantly off the mark, quite frankly. I had the pro forma in place, I had the budget in place, and historicals in place, but it did not come to fruition like we anticipated out of the gate. And we needed capacity and size to be able to accomplish what we wanted financially, which was, at that time, was just wanted to pay the bills and be able to enjoy life a little bit. But I missed the mark, not we. I missed the mark with expectation of that significantly. And some things that did, or the flip side of that, of expectations that were met, was the support and guidance I got from being a part of or involved with a franchise where they had, the systems, processes, et cetera, in place. Because I, like Laura, was not necessarily food career driven at that time. I looked at it as a business that I thought I could train and teach and develop others to run with and for me, that I could expand and own multiple locations. So that's what I would probably say were the things that I missed the mark on, and of many that I missed the mark on, quite frankly. But some of the things that my expectations were met was the support and assistance with it.
That's fantastic. And I would say too, from what I've seen, for the food businesses that we work with, I know you, Brandon, you had the franchise and the infrastructure kind of built up there. But overall, just support that we see for our food businesses, it's out there somewhere. So I think that is, sometimes folks go into that expectation and think, I got to do it all myself. There's no one out, to help out. But that definitely is not the case. There are folks there are support, structures. There's people out there. And then yes, the income from food businesses is, especially as you're starting up, Brandon, you were spot on when you say you really got to build up that size and that volume. But the early days of running a food business, everybody's like shaking their head like, yes, preach. That is something to take into consideration. I mean, startup food businesses, the income from that can be very difficult. So making sure that you're prepared for that ahead of time. August, I'm going to throw the same question to you. What was an expectation that you had for owning a food truck that was just off?
Well, fortunately, I employed the same work habits and experience from being a teacher and a principal years before actually starting the business. Going to workshops and sponsored by Mid-Continent Library, working with you at the Ennovation Center, going online and reading everything I could about food trucks and getting books about that, and meeting with other food truck owners. And so I got a lot of great advice. One of the best pieces of advice was make sure that buying your truck is one of the very last things you do. Don't buy the truck first and then work from that point. Buy it last. I think the thing that was off for me was having no food industry experience, was the amount of time that it was going to take to actually run the business. Again, luckily, I was used to being a teacher and a principal, and the amount of time you spend actually in school is only a fraction of the amount of time you spend honing your craft. And so it's the same thing with the food industry. So I really wasn't prepared for the amount of hours, 7 days a week, that it was going to take to be successful and make sure you're happy with yourself and the product that you're making. It's not something you can do just working a few hours a day. So I think that was the thing that I was pretty off about when I first started thinking about the food truck, was the amount of time that it was going to take to be successful.
If you've ever worked in a restaurant where you see, when I worked in restaurants, I would see the owner, I'd leave at whatever, like midnight. They're still there. They're going on to the second job, which is the paperwork. Okay, bye. I'll see you tomorrow. So all that extra, that behind the scenes stuff that you don't see in the food commercials. Yeah. Laura, what is an expectation that you had for owning a food product business that was just wrong?
Thinking I knew what I was doing. I didn't really plan this out. Like, I never had dreams of owning a business one day. I was kind of in dire straits with my career in television, and I was just very unhappy and was burnt out, and things were changing in that industry and I wasn't keeping up. And so I left under duress and started waiting tables and just doing these little kind of cook for friends and this and that, and thinking, what am I going to do? I don't have enough retirement money yet. So I had no expectations. I was just like, gung-ho, I got to do something, and this is it. This is my last shot. And I don't know. I was completely, Xander, you remember my first meeting in there. I had no idea what I was doing. And I think it was probably a full year before I came back and said, okay, I'm doing this. I got nothing else. I'm doing this. And so it's just been a daily learning deal. I think that the biggest challenge for me is the cash flow, because I didn't borrow money. And so I'm literally selling my product and then taking that money and I'm going out and buying ingredients. And now that I'm taking on distribution myself, I've got little tiny checks coming in from here and there, and it trickles in and I go by when I'd really like to make 3 giant batches of fatty, and I only have enough money to make 2 batches. So then I got to go back again to the store the next time the paycheck rolls in. So that's been really tricky. And I check the mailbox every day going, please come today. So, you know, I didn't have any expectations. I was just flying by the seat of my pants.
But you've been doing a fantastic job. And
Do or die.
going back to a point that those connections to other people that can help out there, it can really help you out. So thank you definitely for kind of sharing that story and sharing, you know, how you were getting into the business and cash flow. Absolutely. It's not just important to make sure like, hey, you know, I've done some, you know, projections and I'll come out ahead X amount of dollars at the end of the year. Well, you got to get to the end of the year. Cash flow is definitely something, especially in those early years, to keep an eye on. Victor, same question. What is an expectation that you had for the restaurant that was just off?
Oh, great. I'll take a little bit from every previous speaker here and there from Augustus. I was like, hey, I had to do all the reading, the learning, and all that stuff, but it is 360 degrees different from what is really happening. Watch out the number of education, exposure, reading. The real deal is a must now. From Laura, it's about the money also. You would expect that, okay, you got your prices right. Okay, everything's just going to be nice. Then suddenly the overhead bills come in. Oh my gosh, all the money is gone in a minute. You're like, where did the money go? And you're struggling with all that. And, the time you spend every day is it's something that you've never experienced before. You wake up thinking about the restaurant, you go to bed thinking about the restaurant, and it's a continuous cycle. It doesn't stop. You're looking for stuff to keep it running. You have to stretch yourself. Those things, you can't put that on paper. There's no way you can put that on a business plan. You know how to scale it. It just happens. And you're running all over the place trying to, because you never know what to expect. Today, it's so quiet in the restaurant. The next phone call, you are feeding 80 people on a Saturday night. Then on a Sunday, after service, 30 more people are calling you on, we're coming from church to your restaurant. I'm like, no, stop, don't call. We're not even awake yet. We're still cleaning up from yesterday, you know? So I had to stop and rethink the whole schedule again, decide when my off days will be. All kinds of things had to be readjusted to get to reality because it's just one person in the brain power behind this whole process. And Brandon, you're very fortunate to have a massive team. I hope you send some people down my way so that I can get some support because it's crazy trying to train people to do what you have going on, trying to get them to do it correctly. And it's
Victor,
so
I am
tough.
so sorry to have to cut you off because we've only got 1 minute. I want to make sure I want to take some time to thank you for sharing just those, you know, that personal, like how it feels and what just and some of those challenges with running the restaurant. I had a chance before we started, everybody shared just a little bit of something positive happening. So I'm just going to go through. So August was saying with the food truck with Chow Bella, you know, they're seeing weddings come up for 2021. So that's really exciting. Victor is launching a new product. So, you know, expanding the business. It was something he was thinking of, but, you know, the craziness of the year, like now's the time. Laura, with your partnerships and those, you know, collaborative, the pizzas that you're launching and those individuals and all the opportunities that are coming from that. And then Brandon, I said you got 30 locations. Well, you said 2021, it's going to be 33 locations. So even in these tough times, you know, expanding, doing new things, seeing that business starting to come back, it's really heartening to see. Thank you so much, everybody, for spending some time. I know your days are super busy managing right now, but I think I'm going to go ahead and speak for the audience that they appreciate having that personal connection and hearing those personal stories about what it's really like to run a food business. So everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you around.
Thank you.